So hey guys, and welcome to another video. So today's video is I'm going to try and keep this as short as I possibly can, but it's quite a big subject actually. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to buy a watch, and I think particularly as we're heading into a new year, and everybody's looking at their New Year's resolutions and what they want to achieve this year. I think now's a good time to be talking about how to buy a watch, because I'm sure that that's probably a subject which is on a lot of people's minds, as it has been on mine recently actually. And if you get the time, if you haven't already, have a look at the video that I put up just recently about my watch goals for 2024. I have a few. One of them is to be more considered. I've got a short list of watches that I want to buy, and I've also got a couple of watches or a couple of categories that I'm going to be looking at, where I'm going to be needing to get myself into the used market basically. So what I wanted to do today was just talk briefly about the different types of watches, or the different ways or avenues that you can go about buying a used watch. And I am specifically talking about a used watch here basically. Look, I could make a whole video on how to buy a watch from an AD, but I think you guys, I think you know how that works. You can walk into any AD and buy any Omega and most Tudors, any SEIKO, any Longines, any IWC you like, pretty much, unless you're looking for I don't know, an Omega. The Snoopy seems to be a very popular watch. I'm not quite sure why. I don't like it. I don't get the whole Snoopy craze, but a lot of people wouldn't get the Kermit craze, because I like the Oris Kermit. So hey, each to their own, eh? That's what I say. But unless you're after a watch which is got a significant kind of wait list attached to it, then you're going to be able to walk into an AD in 2024, guys. And as I mentioned in a previous video, have a look at trying to get yourself a discount as well, because I think they'll be out there. If you want some advice from me on what type of discount to be asking for, in other words, what value, guys, honestly, forget Rolex. You're still not going to get a discount on a Rolex next year, so don't ask for one. Tudors, I think you need to be asking for 5 to 10%. I think if you're looking at Omega as an example, I think you could also be looking at 5 to 10% quite comfortably. And then we go down into like the range of the Tag Heuer. Who else is there? IWC, Breitling, Grand SEIKO. Those guys, honestly, those brands, you really need to be looking at a 15% plus discount as we go into 2024, because those brands, outside of your Rolexes, your Tudors, and your Omegas, those brands have got quite a significant drop at the moment in their value relative to their retail. So I think if the ADs want to sell those watches next year, they're going to be looking at those kinds of discounts, guys. And I think you need to be asking for one, because they're not going to offer it to you unless you ask for it. And be prepared to walk away. And that was another tip that I gave you guys in a previous video, is be prepared to just say, nah, not today. If you can't give me the discount I'm looking for, it won't be today. But specifically talking about used watches, guys, because there are going to be some bargains to be had for used watches as we go into next year. You've got two different options, really, haven't you? You can either look to buy a used watch privately, or you can look to buy one from the likes of, say, Chrono24 or eBay. Now, I've got quite a lot of experience of buying used watches. I've got a lot of experience of using Chrono24 and eBay. I've used them both. I use them both quite frequently, to be honest with you, because here in New Zealand, it's a very, very small country with a small population. It's a massive landmass. The landmass of New Zealand is about the same landmass size as Great Britain, by the way. And what's the population of Great Britain? Over 100 million now. The population of New Zealand is 5 million and growing. So maybe in 10 years' time, the population might have made it to 6 million, something like that. I don't know. But it's a tiny population relative to its landmass. And of course, that makes the market for used watches very, very small. There are a couple of used watch traders here in New Zealand, and I mean a couple of reasonably sized ones. They price their watches quite high, and I think that's because they can. Because the market's quite small. So I actually prefer to buy my watches from overseas, because I just get a better deal. So I go to Chrono24 and I go to eBay, and look, guys, I've never had an issue buying a watch off of Chrono24. I've never had a watch an issue buying a watch off of eBay, there are some tips, there are some reasons for that, and I'd like to just talk to you about those briefly now. One is, you know, if you're going to buy a watch on Chrono24, you need to, from a trader on Chrono24, whether it's a private trader or whether it's a business trader, whether it's actually like a, you know, bricks and mortar shop or an online shop, is, guys, check their feedback. I mean, that's what it's there for. You know, these auction websites and these sales websites, they invest an awful lot of time and effort into making sure that the people that are buying watches from these guys leave feedback. I get emails when I buy a watch. I get an email immediately saying, please leave feedback. And I'm getting that from the seller as well. They want me to register my feedback about them on the site, and that's critical. And that's because, guys, ultimately, when you're buying a watch online, you don't know the seller, you don't know them, you don't know who they are, and the only thing that you've got to go on before you drop, I don't know, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 into their bank account, the only thing you've got to go on is that feedback, because you're not physically in front of them. So my advice, guys, and this is really, really important, is check the feedback, read the feedback. Usually the feedback is stated initially as a percentage, and also have a look not just at the percentage but how many trades they've had. So I deal with one particular trader that I deal with in Japan, who I get a lot of my watches from. They've got, honestly, I think they've probably got 15,000 trades now on Chrono24, and their feedback is something like 99.6%. And I'm almost certain, if I looked at the 0.4% of negative feedbacks, it'll be something like DHL lost the parcel. The parcel was on my doorstep, and you know, and it got stolen or something like that. It won't necessarily be because the seller did anything wrong. It will be because something else happened in the transaction that the buyer's not happy about. So check the feedback, even negative. Check it, read it, make sure that you understand why that seller has that feedback. And if they've got 80% feedback from 5 trades, walk away, guys. You're going to have a problem. But if they've got 99 point something % feedback from 1,000 trades, or even 50 trades, then you know you've got a reasonable degree of confidence there that other people have bought watches from this trader and it's gone okay. The next thing is, look at what they've sold before. Look at the types of watches that trader is selling. So, for example, if you're looking at, let's say, an Omega Seamaster, and they want $5,000 for it, $5,000 or you know, £3,000 or whatever it is, but usually the types of watches they're selling are $200-300 or $500 or 1,000 max. That would cause a little bit of a worry. I think you need to have a look at why are they suddenly selling this really high priced watch, or this really low priced watch. Look at the range of watches that they're selling, guys, is what I'm saying. Is look at their history, look at what types of watches they've sold, and correlate that also with the feedback, and then you can make a really informed judgment that says, this guy, I can see he's selling loads of Seamasters all the time, and the feedback's really good. The second thing, which I think is really important, other than the feedback, guys, when it comes to the description that the seller has put, is study every single word of the description, because quite often you'll find, if there is a negative about the watch, if there is something that's not quite right about it, the seller may have stated it, but they may have stated it somewhat, let's say, it might be somewhat ambiguous as part of the description. So read every word of the description. If anything in the description looks ambiguous, be worried about it, because quite often the seller, you know, a good seller will always declare even if there's something wrong, but they might not declare it as clearly as you'd like to see it. So read every word of the description, make sure you understand what it is they're saying about the watch. And also with the images, and I've made this point before about images when you're trying to sell your watch, is, you know, the picture says 1,000 words, guys. So when you're selling your watch, you need your picture to say 1,000 words. And it's the same when you're buying a watch. You should expect anybody that's trying to sell you a watch will have posted at least 10 really, really nice, bright, clear pictures of the watch, including pictures of the case back and the clasp, because of course that's where usually you expect to see some damage, is on the case back and clasp. So expect to see really nice, clear pictures of that. The picture says 1,000 words, and so again, as with the description, study every single detail on the images. You know, on eBay they've got a really nice mechanism where you can zoom really close into the image. So zoom in, look at everything in 10 times magnification. You know, if you're the kind of guy that doesn't like a ding or a flea bite, as some people call it, on the lug, and you're going to receive that watch and it's got a little flea bite on the lug, you're going to be really unhappy. So the best way to avoid being unhappy with your purchase is to make really well-informed decisions. So study the pictures in great detail, in great magnification. Make sure you understand that what looks like it might be I don't know, a ding is actually just a bit of fluff. You know, and when you zoom in on the picture, you can see all this stuff. The other thing I just wanted to mention was do your homework on the watch that you want as well. And without wishing to sound patronizing, I think a lot of people say, oh, I want to buy a Seamaster coaxial 41mm. But actually, you know, what specific model is that? You know, what year are you looking for? So do your homework on the watch and what was specific about that watch, because when you come to look at the pictures of the watch, that will help you determine whether the watch that you're looking at is actually the watch in the description, and it will also help you determine whether the crown, little things like whether the crown looks right, does the bezel look like it's been replaced, because sometimes on a watch that might be 10-15 years old, the bezel, you would normally expect an aluminium bezel to pick up a few little hits here and there, adds to the character of the watch. If the bezel looks absolutely perfect, have a good look at that bezel to make sure it's actually a genuine bezel, because it might be a replacement. And as an example, guys, if you go on eBay and just type into eBay replacement bezel for Seamaster, and I know I keep picking on the Seamaster, but it's such a common model and commonly for sale, have a look at how many aftermarket bezels there are for sale on eBay, and just ask yourself the question, somebody's buying those bezels and putting them on their Seamaster, and you don't want to be the guy, I bet you don't want to be the guy that buys the Seamaster with the replacement aftermarket bezel on, do you? So do your homework on the watch, guys. Make sure you understand what you expect the watch to look like, and does it tally up with the pictures that the seller has posted, and that's really important. That will help you stay away from Franken watches and fakes and counterfeits and just watches that have had a lot of work done on them that that you just want to avoid. So I've always kind of had the opinion that the onus is on me as the buyer to make sure that I'm getting a good watch. It's not, the onus is not on the seller. The onus on the seller is to tell me the condition honestly of the watch. But if the watch turns up and it's not what I expected, that's not the seller's fault if they've described it correctly. It's my fault for not paying attention and for knowing and doing my homework and knowing what to expect with that watch. So that's really important. Ask questions about the watch, guys. Ask, particularly if it's a private sale on eBay, as you can ask about the history of the watch. Where did it come from? Where did you get it? The other thing I'd like to say is box and papers. To me personally, box and papers are critical. I very rarely buy a used watch that hasn't got at least its original warranty cards and papers. If it hasn't got the box, sometimes that's okay. As an example, the reason not having a box would be okay would be with, again, I'm going to pick on the Omega Seamaster, but those neo vintage Omega Seamasters, and I've got one on today, my 2254 4.5. This watch came with its warranty cards. It even came with the instruction manual and the worldwide warranty certificate. It came with everything apart from the box, because what happens with the Omega boxes, guys, and I think you've all seen one, they're the red boxes with the faux leather. They just fall apart. They completely deteriorate. All the red faux leather coating just flakes off of them, and it's horrible stuff. It gets everywhere. It's really horrible, tacky, almost oily in texture, and it gets all over your fingers when you get a bad one. And I've had a couple of bad ones, and I've actually thrown the box away because it's just not worth keeping. So if a watch doesn't have its original box, that's kind of okay in some instances, but I wouldn't recommend buying a watch, particularly if it's less than about 10 years old. I wouldn't recommend buying a watch that doesn't have its original warranty cards. And I know some people think it's okay, you just get it for a cheaper price, but I'm thinking, well, what sort of a history has this watch had that the owner, they spent 10-15 grand on it when they bought it and they just threw the warranty cards away? You know, sometimes I think that's a reason to be a little bit concerned. So try, if you can, you know, to get the full set. That's how it's commonly referred to, as the full set. Just round off, guys, because I wanted to keep this video as succinct as I could, and I know that in many respects I'm preaching to the converted here, and you guys know all this, but I think it doesn't hurt to remind ourselves. And if you've got any more suggestions and tips, guys, please do put them in the comments as well, because this is a video for everybody to learn from, including myself. Know what a fair price is, and I think that's really important. There's nothing more infuriating as a seller, and I've been there on a few occasions, than some douche comes along and offers you about 50% less for your watch, you know, than the market value, because they think they're trying to be smart or clever and you know, try and get themselves a deal. Don't be that person, is what I'm saying, is don't be that person that makes a stupid low offer on a watch. Understand what the going market rate is for the watch that you want. Understand what it is that you want to pay, and make sure that what you want to pay is realistically achievable, that someone's actually going to want to sell you that watch for that price. And when you do eventually make an offer, because I think you should always make an offer for a watch that's for sale. Never pay the screen price like you do on a second-hand car. Never pay the screen price for a second-hand car. You always negotiate. And usually that's because the seller has loaded their screen price, because they expect you to come and negotiate. Make sure that you don't insult the seller, guys, by making a stupid low offer. Understand what you think the right price is for that watch, yeah, go in 5% lower than that price, knowing that the seller's likely to come back, you know, and make a counter. So yeah, play fair is what I'm saying. You know, when you're buying a watch, as you expect people to play fair when you're selling your watch. So my suggestion is play fair when you're buying a watch as well. And just finally, guys, I just want to finish this video by saying, and I'm going to give you this advice as somebody who has made this mistake many times, and that is never buy a watch on a whim. Never make an impulse buy on a watch. And I've learned that through mistakes, and I've seen other people make the mistake, by the way. And a classic, which I saw fairly recently, was that there was an Amiga, and I'm going to do it again, guys. There was an Amiga Seamaster for sale on the local auction site here in New Zealand, and I had a good look at it. The price looked good, box and papers, and I thought, wow, that's a nice watch. I might be interested in that. And then the more I looked at the photographs, the more I realised it wasn't the 41mm, it was the 36. Now I actually already have the 36. It didn't say it was the 36 in the description, but the warranty card had the model number on it. So for me, that was okay that the seller didn't state that it was 36, because the warranty card had the model number on. You can't get clearer than that. So this goes back to do your homework. You know, the model number was clearly indicated. But a guy I know actually bought that watch, and he bought it immediately, pretty much as soon as he saw it. I think he just pressed buy now because the price was good. And I messaged him and I said, damn, you know, congratulations on buying that nice Seamaster 36. And he came back to me and he said, no, it's a 41. And I said, no, mate. I said, that's definitely a 36 because it's the model number so and so. And this is just an example, guys. So he ended up buying that watch. He went through with the sale, to his credit. He went through with the sale, but then he sold it again because he made an impulse buy. And so be very careful of that. You know, take your time. Don't rush. You know, when the heart gets pumping and the blood starts to rush through the brain, telling you to press buy now, and your hand starts to shake on the mouse, you know, because you're starting to get really excited about your next watch. Guys, that's not a good time to buy a watch. It really isn't. And that's when mistakes get made and you miss things and you stop seeing things that are obvious. So moral of the story here, guys, is never buy a watch on impulse or a whim. Take your time, think about it. And my recommendation is, my recommendation is to sleep on it, and I do that quite frequently. If I see a watch come up for sale that I really like, I typically come back the next morning after I've slept on it and think, do I still want this watch? And that's kind of stood me quite well actually over the last, you know, couple of years, when I've nearly bought a watch that I probably shouldn't have done, and slept on it and then realized, no, that's not the watch I want. I'm going to wait and get the watch that I really want. So there you go, guys. That was kind of my quick buyer's guide, really, how to buy a watch safely in 2024. you know, like I said, I do recommend eBay and Chrono 24. They're really good. They work well, but the onus is still on you as the buyer to do your homework, and I think that's the moral of the story. And guys, I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers, guys.